if we need more demand, I'm pretty sure there's an entrepreneur out there saying, I got this. And he will go through and make sure that the demand is met, and he'll line his pocketbook in the meantime. That's how capitalism works. So I ain't scared. Are you scared? So utilities experts are speaking on nation's ability to accommodate a wider EV adoption. It doesn't just happen magically. So, as you know, I am a Tesla owner, Tesla Model Y Performance, most badass car ever. But I will say, this past weekend during Easter, my brother-in-law came over. My brother-in-law drives a Toyota Tundra, one of the big Toyota trucks, right? And he was saying to himself, or saying to me, I suppose, he's like, you know what? When everybody's got EVs, the grid's not going to be able to handle it, and you're not going to be able to charge your car. And I'm like, bro, I ain't worried about it. They'll figure it out. Like, when's the last time you sat around and you're like, yeah, I think I've just plugged in far too many things in my house. I'm just not going to be able to get any electricity out of it, right? That was my thought. It's like, what are you getting at here? Are you jealous of my electric car? Like, where are you going with this? So the idea that, I guess more than he has, are that people saying, listen, we're not going to be able to keep up with this grid. The grid will not be able to keep up with EVs. I don't know. You tell me in the comments. What do you think? But the experts agree that more communication is needed between grid operators and EV manufacturers. This is basically, in a nutshell, consider it like whenever, Henry Ford was making Model Ts and such. At some point, they had to ramp up oil manufacturing. They had to ramp up oil exploration. They had to ramp up refineries in order to handle the demand for gasoline, right? How is that different than this? Please enlighten me. I mean, this is exact one-for-one correlation here. If we need more demand, I'm pretty sure there's an entrepreneur out there saying, I got this. And he will go through and make sure that the demand is met, and he'll line his pocketbook in the meantime. That's how capitalism works. So I ain't scared. Are you scared? Let me know. Let's take a look at this article, though. Last month, the Biden administration finalized highly anticipated environmental regulations that are ultimately intended to incentivize wider adoption of EV vehicles. The aggressive emission standards for gas-powered vehicles are meant to compel automakers to increase production and sales of EVs, plug-in hybrids, traditional hybrids, and fuel cell vehicles. Under one low-cost model outlined by the EPA, officials said automakers will be forced to ensure 56% of light-duty car sales are battery electric and another 13% are hybrid by 2032. So we've got less than 10 years. We've got 8 years to get more than half of all car sales as EVs. These goals have raised the prospect of whether the U.S. grid system is ready to accommodate wider adoption of EVs. So this picture is pretty interesting. So I just did a 2,400-mile road trip in my Tesla. It was actually great. I don't know how many times I stopped. One thing that I figured out, because I have kids, we were going to be stopping every 3 hours anyway to charge, which when you have kids, you realize that that's pretty common. So we're stopping 3 hours anyway at the longest stretch. But honestly, with these two boys that I got in the back seat, we never really made it more than 3 hours, except while they were sleeping. So anytime they're like, hey, I need a bathroom, hey, I'm hungry, whatever, I just went on the screen, popped a couple buttons, and navigated to the nearest Tesla supercharger. How's that any different than with a gas car, right? You're going down the road, you're like, oh, I need some gas, doom. I'm going to go straight to the next Shell or next Exxon or whatever it is. Same prospect here with EV charging. And at first, I was a little bit anxious about the charging time because on my trip planning, it had shown to be at the most 25 minutes at any stop. And that was in reality what we came to. I mean, the longest stop we had was about 25 minutes. And keep in mind, when you park, you go inside, use the restroom, grab a couple of drinks, walk around for a minute and come back to the car. That's like 12, 15 minutes right there. And then you got to wait 10 minutes more. It's not that big a deal. It's not that much of an inconvenience. And then you can drive 3 hours at highway speeds, right after that. But, when we're talking about the grid, plugging in my car every night at home is just like plugging in my phone. In fact, it's really, really nice to go out every single day and I got a full charge. I mean, when's the last time you could do that with your gas car, right? Just go out to your garage, unplug it, boom, got a full tank of gas. It's actually super, super nice. So while there is a little bit of hesitation, a little bit of extra planning that goes into a road trip with Teslas, right? It doesn't mean that the electric grid can't handle it, even right now, right? There was never a point where I had to wait for a charger, not once. And I do believe that additional wider adoption of these chargers is going to become so commonplace, right? Here in Texas, we have Buc-ee's, and I think all the Buc-ee's at this point have chargers out front, right? There's 16 chargers. And I mean, most gas stations don't even have 16 pumps. And it's becoming more and more common. I think most of the places I stopped at were gas stations on that 2,400-mile road trip. There was one Starbucks that I stopped at, which was nice because I was needing a little pick me up anyway. But yeah, the grid I'm not really worried about. Somebody's going to figure out a way to solve this problem. Tesla CEO Elon Musk once ominously warned that EVs would roughly double the world's need for electricity. Toyota's chief scientist has issued a similarly dire forecast, opining that the world simply isn't ready for EVs. So where exactly do the utilities stand on the matter? Grid operations experts who spoke to Fox Business were broadly optimistic about the nation's prospect for accommodating wider EV adoption, but with a few caveats. Each agreed that decades of relatively flat demand were over, and that converging factors, with EVs just being one of them, have necessitated the need to modernize and build out capacity. Well, I think there's a big red flag right there. Listen, if we've said that we haven't done anything for the last several decades, and you know what, maybe it's about time to build out more capacity. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is time to do that, right? At some point, the oil refiners were like, "Oh, golly gee, we need to start making more oil for all these newfangled cars that are driving around, replacing all them horses and buggies. Maybe we need to do the same for the electric grid at this point." Yeah, clearly. We can build up the grid. That's a choice. We just need to do it. You know, the early 2030s is plenty of time to invest in transmission and get the grid where it needs to be. So we can do it. But it doesn't just happen magically. We have to, as a country, build up our electricity networks. And you know what? Maybe that's an opportunity for even more jobs, right? We could always use more jobs. This person says that policymakers and grid operators alike had a collective oh crap moment in 2023 when they realized we got behind, but we're starting to get the message. He's not worried about the politics would prove to be a hurdle, and states red and blue, and as states as red and blue alike start to realize the opportunity for jobs and investment, like I was just saying. They all want these big chip plants and data centers. That's a lot of economic development, property tax-based jobs. So I think if you ask any governor, are you working on that? And they're hearing concerns about their grids, they would all say yes. Now I will say, in my road trip, Florida was by far the best, the best state to charge at. Like there were chargers everywhere in Florida. Mississippi, not so much. Mississippi was real sketch. There was one road. There were two routes that I could take. And I was talking to my wife. I'm like, this route saves us about 30 minutes in travel, but there's one charging station on that route. And if that charging station for some reason is not working, we're hosed. So I will say there is that drawback, right? The availability of it at this point, but it is getting more and more prevalent. And I think in the very near future, it's not going to be an issue. So let's take a look at XLU, right? We're talking about utilities here. Let's talk about XLU. So XLU is the utility sector. And what I want to look at on the AI trading data is the most recent signal here was a sell signal on March 21st. So using this AI trading data here, you can see that long term, we may have some issues, right? May have some issues building up the grid, but short term, we do definitely have a sell signal here. And in fact, following these buy and sell signals from Outlier generated a 43.34% return, where buy and hold on XLU is only 6%. So tremendously outperforming the market. So I want you to get your hands on this deal. We have this is the last week. Like at the end of this week, it is over. Go to outlierdeal.com. That's OVTLYR deal.com today while you can to get access to Outlier for one low price for a lifetime license. It literally is going away at the end of this week. Boy, I hope you get it. All right, let's take a look and see what the internet has to say about this, right? 31 countries have surpassed a pivotal EV tipping point when 5% of new car sales are purely electric. This threshold signals the start of mass adoption, after which technological preferences rapidly flip. And that's according to Bloomberg. So I don't know. I don't know the stats, but I did hear a stat that the Model Y, which is the car that I have, was the most sold car in the entire world last year, and it wasn't even close. So, like, Teslas are taking over the world. Yes, I'm a Tesla fanboy. Get over it. Why isn't there more innovation in home-based solar energy or power generation? If you had a solar roof, Powerwall, and an EV, that would be set up to have it right. But it seems a lot of utility companies are fighting innovation in this area. Interesting you say that. So my neighbor, so I have a Model Y. My neighbor has a Model S. He has a solar roof. He has enormous Tesla batteries in his garage, and he has a Model S. So that's exactly what this person's talking about here, right? He's kind of off grid at this point. He can drive his car, power his house, do all he needs to do, and all he needs is the sun. This person says, it is happening fast. Let's see some more replies here. I'm sure you see this photo. I'm hoping for a launch date of Ludicrous. Could be today or tomorrow. So that's the new Ludicrous mode in the Tesla Model 3. This person says, this has already happened in many big cities in the US, just waiting on the rest of the country to catch on. But frankly, it may be a while before rural America ever switches to EVs. Longer driving distances, further distance to fast charging infrastructure. And I'm no expert, but I'm not holding my breath. Just glad to see those who are taking the plunge. So I will say that is definitely right there. Longer driving distances and further distances to fast charging infrastructure. That is definitely an area that we need improvement upon. I will agree with you on that without a doubt. We need more chargers. And once we get more chargers, is it really any different than getting gas? I would say it's not. So thank you so much for tuning in today's Outlier Live. Be sure to click one of these 2 videos above. YouTube thinks you are going to love those. And I'll see you on the next episode. Talk soon.